Yes people, what is going on? Hope you are all good. Long time since I've been able to do a proper sit down video here in the studio. Thank you so much for putting up with my kind of hectic January period and whatever. Of course it's been a bit of a weird month for Chelsea, but it's coming to an end now. Of course we've got to do manager Thomas Tuchel, which is what we're going to be speaking about today. Lampard is gone. Everyone seems to have some agenda against me, saying that I'm only a Lampard fanboy and I'm not supporting Chelsea and whatever, which is of course complete crap. Complete and utter crap. They think I'm worth knocking down, so maybe it works out for me, I don't know. Either way, Thomas Tuchel is a new Chelsea manager. Everyone seems to think that I don't want him to succeed. Of course I do. I wasn't necessarily that impressed by last night's game, but I will say that I was not impressed with certain things, not that I wasn't impressed by everything, which is what a lot of people kind of read into it and whatever. So I'm just going to kind of spend a little bit of time talking about last night's game and talking about the press conference that just happened today as well, which is his first official press conference as a Chelsea manager. So I'm going to get straight into it. Let's talk about last night's game. And the Wolves game was frustrating because I looked at it at the end of the game and thought this is a game that we actually should have won, but we didn't. And everyone's going to go, oh, we didn't win it because it was his first game. But we actually played well enough to be able to win the game. The only problem is we can keep all the possession. I think at one point, I remember seeing the stat on BT, they were saying that it was 95% possession in favour of Chelsea in a 5 or 6 minute spell or whatever it was, just before the end of the first half, which is great, whoop-de-doo. But you've got to put the ball in the back of the net, which is where I really want to kind of hit home and really focus on. We were able to keep the ball. Everyone's going to talk about the shape and what we did when this was good and that was good and whatever. I'll talk about the shape very quickly because it does deserve to be spoken about. I've always been a big fan of three at the back. Ever since Conte started playing it for Chelsea, where I was really first exposed to it, and obviously Conte played it in the Euros before that as well, I was a really big fan of the three at the back system. It makes us a lot more defensively set, which is something that Chelsea have struggled with over the last few weeks. So I am very, very keen to see how the three at the back progresses. Last night's game, of course, Hudson-Odoi plays right wing back, a role that he's not used to. Ben Chilwell plays left wing back. And I didn't think that Ben Chilwell had a particularly good game, and I think he's struggling for confidence. And when that confidence comes, then all will be happy as Larry. But I still don't think that last night he played that well. And of course he got substituted, so Tuchel obviously thought he didn't play that well either. There was a lot of criticism surrounding last night's team selection. Obviously Gilmour wasn't in the squad at all, which was a little bit annoying, but I'll go on to and cover it a little bit more in a minute. Mason Mount came off the bench and was, in my opinion, for that 10-minute spell that he was on, our best player. Pulisic wasn't even involved, which was a little bit strange because obviously Pulisic and Tuchel had worked together before. It was a bit of a weird lineup, but the one thing that really annoyed me, the three at the back system with the wing backs and a really narrow front three, I still wasn't that fussed by the centre midfielders. Now, a lot of the time, everyone goes, well, Chelsea's depth is in midfield, and that's where we can do most of our good work, which I do agree with. But when you're not going to play the youngsters, which obviously Tuchel didn't, and I will come on to it in a minute because he did explain it in the press conference, you had to play the experienced two of Jorginho and Kovacic. And I think that Chelsea would have won this game if there'd have been a little bit more creativity in midfield. Because all Jorginho did was pass the ball from left to right to left to right. And everyone goes, oh, well, this was so much better than Lampard's football. Actually, the only thing different about this game and Lampard's football is that we didn't cross the ball in as much. But the reason for that is because Reece James wasn't on the pitch. Now, obviously Hudson-Odoi is going to try and cross it in different ways. But really? Do you know what I mean? It's not drastic, it's small changes. It's not the complete finished article yet, and obviously that's because he's been in the job for literally 24 hours before the game. We never expected anything more than that, but I would have liked to have seen a few more people like Mount and Pulisic, who did make a difference when they came on, come into the game a little bit sooner than they did. Pulisic playing as kind of the right wing back role that he did with Mason Mount. They had some lovely success in the latter stages of the game, which was great. But if we could have seen that for 25 minutes, then maybe we could have nicked a 1-0, or we could have even nicked a 2-0 if we'd have played it for large chunks of the second half or something. I understand why he played Kovacic and Jorginho, and you'll see in a minute when I talk about the press conference as for why he did, because he did explain it. But I still look at these two and think they're never going to break the lines. They're never going to be that person that really splits a team open. They're not going to thread that killer pass. There has been a few people I've spoken to about this, and I said it as well last night, is that it was good, but Jorginho basically wanted to be Fabregas. Apart from, let's be honest, Fabregas is one of the best passers ever of the ball. He's elite, and he can thread an eye of the needle pass. And when we tried to do it, they just didn't have the same execution. Playing that system against a very defensive team like we all knew Wolves were going to do, with that personnel, wasn't working. If it would have had different personnel, Mason Mount, who could have banged one from distance, then maybe we would have had a little bit of a different dynamic and a little bit of a different threat. But they were being allowed to keep the ball so much, and I think we played the most passes last night of any game, any team in any game this season, which is great when you think about it, going, oh, well, we keep the ball, and we score. They don't have the ball, they can't score. Great. But they hit the bar, and we didn't. You know, they came closer to scoring than we did on the few occasions that they got. So, as much as I love keeping the ball and moving it from left to right and moving it around and changing different angles, you still got to have that crucial pass in certain areas. And from centre midfield, one of the areas where it's meant to be really creative, we didn't have it. So everything came from wide. You had Havertz and Ziyech should be able to do a little bit more as they came in narrow. I understand why you played Kovacic and Jorginho, but it still doesn't mean they're clinical when it comes to creating that final pass and opening up space and creating something that the opposition is going to struggle to deal with. We were very easy to play against for Wolves, who did some very good defensive work, fair play to them, but they hit the bar, and we didn't. We had very few attempts, but the one that came closest throughout the game was when they hit the woodwork. Great, keep the ball all we want, fine. But you've got to be able to break teams down. And I didn't see a lot from Kovacic, who was the better one of the two, but I saw nothing from Jorginho that was really going to wow me. You know, really going to go, Jesus, that was amazing. That's the kind of thing that I want to be able to win a game with. That's what someone like Fabregas could have done. Now, I'm not saying we should sign Fabregas. Jesus, please do not get me wrong about that. But that role that Jorginho was playing, it almost felt like we were carrying him at times. He was moving the ball from left to right, but many players could have done that, and they would have been more creative in that respect. You had someone like Kai Havertz, who actually I thought played quite well yesterday. I thought he had one of his better games. But again, he still has struggled in the Premier League. It's a little bit different. He is still adapting. One of his better games, but when he was one of your main productive threats, and he still didn't have the best game in the world, then you can start to see where I've got a little bit of a, you know, not a problem, but I'm a little bit annoyed about it. Ziyech hasn't, for me, really hit the ground running, and he shows his moments. I want to see that little bit of desire to go and nick 5 yards of space, or even a couple of yards of space and bang it, you know, because you can create goals like that with little opportunities that do fall to people. Giroud was getting minimal service, and the ones that he did get were low, which is, you know, that's fine, that's the way you want to play football, but you've got to be able to do both ways, so the opposition don't know which way you're going to attack them. And I just felt that after a while, although we were having some sort of success going wide and drilling balls in low, we still could have done more. Everything that we did was on the floor, which again is trying to walk the ball into the net. And I didn't really look at anyone bar Hudson-Odoi when he did actually cut in from the left-hand side on his right foot, and I think it was a deflection that got the save out of Patricio. But that was the only time I really saw anyone take a shot from outside the distance, other than Kovacic's one, which, to be fair, I think if it's any other player bar Kovacic, it might be going in. So I just want to see a little bit more creativity from the centre of the park and things that you're going to be able to create that couple of yards of space for someone to get a shot off. I just think that with the Jorginho and Kovacic too, it wasn't as creative as we'd have liked it to have been. And my only worry now going forward under Tuchel, again, I understand why he did it, and I'll talk about why he played those two. My only worry is if Kante comes back, he plays Kante and Kovacic together, which is, you know, okay, but Kante's not that creative either. He's not going to thread an eye and a needle pass, and it still means that Chelsea are very easy to play against. I think we've got to be quicker, I think we've got to be sharper, and although that is not going to be fixed in 5 minutes by Thomas Tuchel, and that is not his fault at all, please do not get me wrong, that is not Thomas Tuchel's fault at all, I still think we need to see better performances from a large amount of players, and I also do think that some of those players were the ones that let Frank down, which is why I'm a little bit annoyed. So yeah, that was my instant thoughts. We've got a couple of big-ish games coming up over the next few weeks, including the Tottenham game next week, which Tuchel actually got asked about, fun enough, in the press conference, which I will come on to. We have to be able to be a bit more creative and make that little bit of a spark. And Tuchel said it, and I think he said it in his post-match interview as well, and he definitely said it in the press conference. I want to be a team that people fear to play against. And I looked at the game last night, and I saw signs of it, but I also saw things that everyone would go, brilliant, we'll just sit back and defend like hell. That's what I want to avoid. I don't want to see us do the same thing over and over and over again and everyone just park the bus against us, because then you're going to rely on absolute moments of magic, and unfortunately that can't happen every single game. I liked what I saw in large parts. Hudson-Odoi was superb as a wing back, and I'd love to be able to see more of him. I think Tuchel's going to be able to get the best out of him and some youngsters as well. But to say it was perfect and to say that we are all absolutely happy and whatever with a point, I think is a little bit stupid. They had 2 or 3 chances when they hit the bar, and a few others as well, and they made Mendy work, but that was the exact same way that we made Patricio work. Bearing in mind we had so much more possession, that's what I want to avoid. If we can soak up pressure, which is where a 3 at the back really kind of come into effect, and we can go forward and bomb on and whatever when the opportunity is right, we're going to score a lot of goals. But we have to be able to create whilst doing it. We have to be able to create, and that was where I have a little bit of an issue with last night's game. So we're coming on to Tuchel's press conference as well. I have got some notes written down, some little things that I wanted to kind of point out. Things that I liked. Obviously, again, it's his first press conference. He's been in the job for a day and a half, whatever. So let's not go nuts over this. He was asked kind of why Chelsea, and he just very simply said, why not? You know, completely agree. He's always spoken about his hunger and his desire to go and be successful and win. And Chelsea's goals are to win, and they are to win silverware. There is a few things circulating around online, which I don't really want to kind of bring light to, but yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but you can see that certain fans are annoyed by various different things, and if I say the circus continues line, you'll know what I'm on about. But Chelsea had been successful. That is the standard, and that's what he wants to uphold. So I rate that completely. Again, I just want to say this, just so everyone is 100% clear. I do not want to slag off Tuchel. I do believe that he can be a good manager for us. I'm not being a Lampard fanboy. I like Lampard, but gone now. Got to support Tuchel. That's our job. He also went on to say about the sacking culture doesn't worry him. I am reading some notes, so I'm going to look down. He said we need the supporters. These are all rough quotes, by the way. I couldn't get it down. I'm not a journalist. We need supporters. Understands that Frank's understands the thoughts about Frank of the fans, and that he actually was a big fan of him as a player as well, which, you know, it is a large amount of respect. There was also a message from Frank Lampard, a private message in support to Thomas Tuchel, which is something that I think is really classy. Frank Lampard's proper Chelsea. He is proper Chelsea, and he wants to wish the best for the next manager. It didn't work out for Lampard at this particular time, but he still doesn't want to see the club fail. That's not how he works. Someone like Mourinho, for example, classic example. I love Mourinho, but when he's not Chelsea manager, he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. He's got some players that he likes and whatever probably, but those players have moved on. So now that he's not Chelsea manager, he couldn't give it a toss. Lampard's not like that, because Lampard is old school Chelsea, and that's what I think a lot of Chelsea fans were really annoyed about when he moved on. But still get the message of support from Frank, and he said that basically when the time is right, the invitation to meet would be very, very kind of much appreciated, shall we say. He also did mention about transfers, obviously with a kind of a few days to go in the window. I think it's Monday that it closes. Not really bothered about it, to be honest with you. He kind of said it's going to be too hard to judge right now with obviously what his team's looking like and the squad that he's got. He kept repeating that we've got 20, 21, 22 outfield players that are all going to be used, and we're fighting on 3 different fronts. He also did go on to say about the Premier League and winning the Premier League, there's 8 teams above Chelsea in terms of winning the Premier League, 8 teams that are closer than Chelsea in winning the Premier League. So he said that one might be a little bit too much of an ask, but I mean, for me, I think for a lot of Chelsea fans, we're halfway through the season. These teams have dropped points previously. If Chelsea can just make sure that we go, not 100%, that is going to be pretty much impossible, but if we go to as near as 100% as we bloody can, we've got a chance. We've got a chance. That's all you need to be able to do, is say you've got a chance. And if you can keep in and say you've got a chance until the last couple of weeks of the season, then you're pretty much in a top 4 spot, which I think a lot of Chelsea fans would accept is a positive for this season. Also, having said that he thinks that the Premier League is unachievable to win, he does say that he wants to be exciting to watch and bring excitement to the team and to the fan base as well, because I think we do kind of need it, especially at the moment with everything that's going on. It's a bit of a nutty one, so I really do appreciate that he wants to be able to bring excitement. Going on to the team selection, he said that he loves to work with young talent, which is great, but he didn't want to put the pressure on those young players. In his first game, there's a lot psychologically that could have messed with them, with the new manager coming in and all sorts of stuff. So he went for what he knew. He went for the experience, and he didn't want someone like Billy Gilmour, Mason Mount, especially those two in the middle of the park, to be really, really exposed in yesterday's game because of what had happened in the last 48 hours or whatever. That would be a lot for them to deal with, and maybe I'm creating a little bit, a few excuses for them on their behalf. I'm pretty sure it was 5 players that Lampard brought through from the academy, and those 5 players are Tammy, Mount, James, Tomori, Gilmour. Obviously Tomori's on loan at the moment, but the other 4, that could have had a real psychological damage to them, because the guy that gave you your first opportunity basically is no longer at the club, and they've got to deal with it. That's the maturity that they're going to have to show, and I'm pretty sure that they will. But it doesn't make it easier for them, not at the moment, not at all. So yeah, that was pretty much why he chose to go with the more experienced names. Tammy didn't play up front. Hudson-Odoi was the one, to be fair, that did get a little bit more of a push, but I think that's because he was already in the squad before Lampard was there, and also he did play very well, so give credit where it is due. But Reece James, I think a lot of people were looking for him to be the right wing back. Obviously that didn't happen, but again, I still think that he'll get his opportunity. Gilmour will get his opportunity if he doesn't go on loan. Again, that's Billy Gilmour's choice. He wants to be in the squad for the Scotland Euros team in the summer, so you can completely understand it. But these players will get their opportunity when the time comes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. It was just last night's game with 24 hours notice. He went for the experienced players, and this is what I want to say about it. The experienced players, ones that he worked with before, Kai Havertz, and he knew about other people. Giroud, of course, you know what you're going to get. He worked with certain people, Rudiger over Zuma, for example, and he knew about certain people more than others. I think certain ones of them didn't really grab the opportunity by the testes, do you know what I mean? So I think the main thing I want to take away from it all is the fact that certain opportunities didn't really get grabbed, and someone like Mason Mount and Pulisic came on for the last however many minutes Pulisic got, and definitely the last 10 for Mason Mount. Late substitutions. They came on, they made a difference. They really grabbed it by the balls, given the small opportunity they had. I'm not going to criticise Rudiger and whatever, because I mean obviously he's one of the ones that was kind of brought in, and there's a lot flying around about him at the moment, and I don't want to touch on that at all because it is all rumours, and I think I'm going to talk about it later with Lewis, or it might have already been out by now. But I think the 3 at the back system, I will touch on it very quickly. I think our combined back 3 had a combined age of 96 or 94, I think, something along those lines. It's going to be a very hard dynamic to be able to deal with that, or with all 3 of those, and I don't think you can do that pretty much every single week. But we didn't really get tested as a back 3, and we weren't defensive as a back 3. When Wolves did come forward, it was on the counter attack where we did look better, but we couldn't have seen the full story about how the back 3 is going to look, and if they're going to be the personnel that play in there every single week. But he wanted the leadership of Dave, who got forward and put in some nice crosses, actually. Let's very quickly, let me just show you this. I think this was a Sky graphic that they made. Just take a little bit of time, maybe pause the video to read it if you really want. But Dave was the most advanced of the back 3, which is good to see, and that's very much similar to how he was with Morata, where he used to get forward and cross the same ball in all the time. Hang on, wrong side. That way. He used to cross the same thing in all the time, which maybe is another dynamic to Chelsea. I'm not too sure, but I think the 3 at the back is going to have some success. Depends on obviously who is the back 3, but with Thiago Silva playing in the middle with the 2 kind of more experienced guys, or the quicker guys on the outside. When I say experience, I mean Premier League experience. Maybe he could be a little bit more kind of protected, and he's allowed to go and do the, almost like what David Luiz did, the Hollywood passes, and also help out defensively as well. That could add a different dynamic to our game, but I think Chelsea, when we go ahead, and the Chelsea that we saw yesterday, are going to be very, very different teams completely. I think we're going to be a lot more defensive, and we're going to go forward when the opportunity comes, and I see Timo Werner having a lot of success with playing the 3 at the back system and going on the counter attack, because although like the one at Fulham, with that played into his strengths, he should have been able to bury it. He wasn't, but again, when he hits the ground running, which he will do at some point, he will get better, trust me people. Then he could be banging 2 of those in every week. Who bloody knows? Who knows? There's a lot of positives that could come from the 3 at the back system, but last night's game, obviously, we didn't really get a real showcase of what it could be. Let's go on to the Tottenham stuff, because obviously if you've seen recently, he did speak about when he was a youngster, Tottenham used to be on the TV every now and again. So he kind of used to speak about this Tottenham kind of affiliation that he had as a kid, but he basically just played it off completely. He said he understands that we are now rivals pretty much, and he didn't even realise that Tottenham Hotspur was in London until a little while ago when he played them. So yeah, there's nothing really to worry about with that. It was a kind of throwaway comment that was asked by one of the guys at TalkSport, I think it was Moose. But yeah, no, absolutely nothing about it. And I know there's a lot of people on Twitter that are really like going mad about it, but it's nothing to worry about at all. Giving credit to the Premier League, though, he did also say that the benchmark around Europe for the best league is the Premier League. That's what everyone kind of wants to aspire to, and it also said that it's going to have to bring out the best of him and best in him as a manager. There we are, to be able to win this league eventually, whenever it be, whether it be this year by some miracle or whether it be next year, when again everyone starts on level points and we can really start to go and build. The 18-month contract, I have a weird feeling it's going to be extended. I do get a good vibe about this guy. But again, obviously only time will tell. Only time will tell. Going through the last couple of my notes, he said it has been a tough job because of social distancing to be able to really integrate into the team, and there is different challenges that maybe do look a bit different in France and Germany and other places that he might be a little bit more kind of acclimatised to during this obviously current situation. But the distancing has made things harder, and again after a while it will start to build and it will all be fine. He said it was a completely unfair lineup, wanted to start fresh, didn't want to damage the youngsters. Again, I commented on that earlier. Apparently N'Golo Kante is fit / training, and his best position is in the double six. Yeah, 2 centre midfielders. Whether that's going to be whether he always play with a back three and then go on, or if we play a 4-2-3-1 or something a little bit similar, I don't know. But he did say that his best position is in the double six, and I think a lot of people wanted to play as a solo six, where double six you kind of get a little bit more defensive help, shall we say. One can go, one can sit, the other one does this, the other one does that, where certain times I think he got a little bit isolated as a single six. I still think his best role is playing that little bit deeper, what in England we call a 4, but in Germany it is called a 6, and I think it's largely becoming accepted to be called a 6. But yeah, that's what I think his best position is. I don't know who the person who's going to play with him is. That'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks. Could it be Mason Mount? Could it be Kovacic? Also, of course, with Kai Havertz, he maybe picked him because he knew what he was going to get. I thought Mason Mount in the 10 minutes he came on did a hell of a lot more than Kai Havertz did throughout large chunks of the game, but you know, maybe I'm a little bit biased in that respect because I do really like Mason Mount. I thought that he did some really nice turns and really decent balls and decent link-up play, and maybe I didn't see the same amount that I'd like to have Kai Havertz. But again, this is 24 hours into the job, so I'm not going to be too critical. It's just one of those things. It is just one of those things. He also commented about Mason Mount and said that he is 100% Chelsea, and that he is, you know, oh God, oh Christ, that he is proper Chelsea. We'll go with that. He is proper Chelsea. He loves the club and he wants to fight, which is awesome. He did also comment on Billy Gilmour and said that although he is a little bit smaller, and some various different comments, he has got very high praise of him. He's very quick with his feet, very quick in his head as well, very much got a footballing brain and all sorts. So yeah, I think we're going to see a bit of Billy Gilmour. Whether he goes out on loan this second half of the season, I don't know, but I think we're going to see a bit more of Billy Gilmour under Thomas Tuchel. It's just in what regard and in what situations. But yeah, final thought I want to give, he kind of gave responsibility to some of the older players, most of the older players, and I think that a fair few of them didn't grab it the best way that they could have. If this was a Palace, or if this was a Brighton or a Fulham or someone of that kind of calibre, a lower half of the table team, we should have been expecting to win it. You know, that's the bottom line. And I do think that this is an opportunity. It was kind of 2 points dropped after the game. Obviously, in the first 24 hours, I said it before the game, I'd have taken a point. But bearing in mind how the game went, I would have liked to see us pick up all 3. And again, I need to say this because I keep banging on about it. We have not taken the lead in a Premier League game in the first half for quite a while. And I think that a lot of people need to realise that after a while, the team will look very, very different when going ahead to what it does when it's now trying to chase the game, or when someone like Wolves, to be fair to them, come and defended and parked the bus. Did a good job of it, but the team will look very different. So that's one thing I really kind of want to make sure everyone is aware of. But yeah, that's just my initial thoughts about Thomas Tuchel, and I think he's going to be a good manager for Chelsea. I like what I'm seeing. A bit of the press conference today was a bit kind of PR-y, but you know, I understand it completely. He also did answer a question in German, which I don't know what was said, might get translated, so I might have missed that. I think he spoke about Timo Werner, but again, maybe that comment comes out that obviously I wasn't going to be able to translate. I don't speak fluent German. But yeah, no, look, I'm impressed by what I've seen so far in the very limited time. I don't want to say that he is the Messiah and that he's going to change everything, but I'm going to support him the same way that you would support any manager, as a proper fan should. Yeah. That's going to be it from me. I think I'm doing a live stream today with Lewis. If it's already out, then watch it. If it's not out, then watch it later. Whatever, I don't know. Anyway, take care, stay safe, up the Chelsea. There'll be a lot more coming from me very, very soon. But for now, take care, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you later.